Hey, Monica.
Hello, how are you today?
Doing good, doing good. I'm up here in the mountains of Colorado at our cabin. It's snowing outside. Still trying to get my steps and activity in, though, even when it's cold. How are you doing?
Good. We just had some storms come through here, but it's a sunny day, about 65, so can't complain too much.
And remind everybody where you are.
I am in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Okay, okay. I am Kimberly Stratman, the owner of To The Point Coach, and I am currently outside of Grand Lake, Colorado, up in the mountains in the snow, huddled in a cabin. Monica, what are we going to discuss today?
So again, just to reintroduce myself, Monica Eaton, the CEO of 50 Care Stay and Fit. And today I think we should talk about some common stereotypes that women deal with in law enforcement positions.
Okay. And just to let everybody know that Monica and I, we discussed a whole lot of stereotypes before we started this, but we wanted to narrow it down to just a couple very relevant ones between the two of us. But let's look at stereotypes. And I will be reading off of some of my notes. And first of all, I want to stress that these are not necessarily specific to law enforcement, but we are going to make them specific for our use today. So a stereotype or a label, it can be false, it can be 100% true, it can be partially true. It can be based on one or a few incidents, it can be historically based, it can be unintentional, it can be cultural, it can be how somebody was raised, it can be harmful, and it can be helpful. So stereotypes, labels can be sourced from a whole plethora of places. But what we want to know is this stereotype a real issue? Is it a real problem for you as an individual, for women in law enforcement, and for the law enforcement profession? So, is it a real issue? Does it hurt you or your pride, your ego? Does it make you try harder? And let's go, Monica, right now, if you don't mind. Why don't you list the stereotype that we want to discuss today?
So the main thing on my mind, and I think is pretty common along with a lot of women, is that women aren't made to do the job, that women can't be police officers and can't be effective police officers, really just because of their gender differences.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just a quick reminder for people. So Monica coaches people in physical fitness and nutrition, and that correlates directly. It can help with a positive mindset, survival mindset, successful life. And I am a coach for women, a different kind of coach than Monica is. What I do is I help you ask yourself questions and find the answers that are going to help you make the right decision for yourself. So the questions that I ask, I never want to give the impression there's a right or wrong answer. It depends upon yourself. So I'm going to ask some questions. And what we would like you to do is we'd like you to ask yourself these questions. And then based on your answers, you decide what your next action is going to be. And then Monica's going to come back and give you some things on that. So here are the questions. Okay, you ready for this? How do you participate in the stereotype? Did you show up for the applicant process in shape? Did you enter the academy in good shape? Are you in excellent physical condition right now? Honestly, are you in excellent physical condition right now? And Monica's going to give you some things to look at. But the first thing I want to ask you is the very simple thing. Can you lift your body weight? Can you run? Could you actually participate in a physical struggle right now today? If you were called on it, could you do your job, take care of yourself, take care of your partner, take care of the public, take the individual into custody safely? Could you do it when the physical shape that you are in right now? So ask yourself those questions, and you might have some other questions to ask yourself that might just get you started on it. But now Monica is going to highlight what you can do depending upon the answers to those questions. Monica?
Right. So I think the important place to start there is, especially in the terms of the stereotype, is figuring out what's within your control. because you can control your mindset and your effort, but you can't necessarily control what other people's opinions are of you. So focusing on what's within your control, how can you improve yourself mentally and physically and your mindset? So with that, the main thing is how to improve your confidence. Because I think that if you go to work every day confident in yourself and in your abilities, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. Because at the end of the day, if you know you can handle the call, you can handle the fight, whatever it is, you're going to walk out of there feeling really good and really confident in yourself. The main thing with improving your confidence, obviously, is working on your fitness and nutrition and your overall health. Making sure that you're eating your whole foods, that you're not hitting the drive-through as many times, like once a shift, or how often you're eating out, prepping your food, taking it with you to work. That's going to keep you feeling good. It's going to keep your mental clarity better, where you're less in the brain fog, you're less tired and sleepy, because obviously those aren't productive things when you're on patrol. And then ultimately making sure you have a fitness routine that benefits you as far as the strength you need, the endurance you need to make sure that you can answer some of those questions that Kimberly asked of can you handle a fight today? Can you handle a foot pursuit today? Would you come out on top on any of those scenarios? Things like that, making sure that your training plan fits those things, those challenges in mind, and make sure that you are training for those scenarios. Would you like for me to continue with the limitations, or did you have some questions there, Kimberly?
So what I'm curious about is what are some things that you think a female officer should do if right now her answer to the questions that she asked is, well, I'm probably not in the best of shape I could be in, but I don't really know what to do. I mean, I kind of like yoga and I kind of like to swim. I don't personally, I'm just using that as an example. But
Right.
what could the female officer do that relates to job, the ability to do their job?
So I would say if you enjoy the yoga and the swimming, don't throw that out. That's an awesome way to stay fit. But I would make sure that you have some job specific workouts and training. So as far as what you can do in the gym, that's making sure that you can move your own body weight, that you can do pull-ups, push-ups, air squats, that you can possibly sprint 100 yards, like the length of a football field, which might be pretty applicable for about the length of a foot pursuit for most, that you can do that sprint with weighted gear, and that at the end of that sprint you're not totally gassed, where if you got to go hands on and put this person in cuffs, because 9 times out of 10 that's how it happens, that you can do that.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't be pushed past your limit and not be able to continue any further, if that makes sense. But the main part of that is, if you can't move your own body weight and you're not strong enough to move and lift your own body weight, you're not going to be strong enough to move your body weight plus somebody else.
And one of the concerns I always have about myself and my coworkers and my officers is they were able to somehow get through the foot chase, get through the struggle. They did it, but they really weren't in good enough shape to do it. And then what's the potential outcome from that?
So if you roll out of bed in the morning and you get presented with a foot chase that day, but you have not trained for it up until that point, your likelihood of getting injured is extremely high.
Yeah.
We don't want that, right? Because we're in a shorting staffing, like a staffing crisis, of keeping boots on the ground. And for the people that we have there, we can't have anybody being injured because that takes more people off the street. So
Monica,
more than
just real quick, one of the things I realized on getting hurt is, and this I didn't realize this until I had children, until I had babies, and that is I was injured on duty and I was off on a couple of days of I time, so I was paid. I was at home. Workers' comp was paying me, but I quickly realized they only pay me 8 hours a day, and there's 24 hours a day. And who's taking care of my children while I'm injured? Who's taking care of my household while I'm injured? It was a real eye opener. It was a real eye opener to me, and I was trying to do everything right. I went home with the injury. Understand what I did is I climbed over a fence and I cut myself, the back of my leg on a fence, cut it. And I didn't go to the emergency room right away. So when I finally went, they said I waited too long for stitches. So I think I was off for like 2 days or whatever, with a big bandage on the back of my leg. Um, but anyway, I got paid for only 8 hours that day. I didn't get paid for 24. And I had two little kiddos at home who wanted mommy to take care of them and pick them up and feed them. And I was trying to not open up, a cut on the back of a big cut on the back of my leg. It was a real eye opener for me. That was a real eye opener for me. So,
Yeah, I've been through work comp myself and I don't recommend it. It's
yeah.
not fun. They don't really take care of you to the best of their ability. And a lot of it is left for you to pick
Mhm.
up where the slack that they didn't give you as far as taking care of you. So if you can train and really put in the work to make sure you stay healthy, you stay fit, you don't get injured, it's going to pay off big in the end. Then the stress, the hassle, all of the stuff that goes along with going through a work comp claim and getting the treatment you need for that injury.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you were going to say something else really important when I interrupted you. So I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I was just saying, it's really important to have the mindset and the mentality and put in the training work in the gym, at home with your nutrition, just making sure that you're healthy all the time for work, because at the end of the day, you need your health for more than just 40 hours a week, right? It's important and it ensures our safety when we're on patrol because we need to make it back home. But it extends past that because you mentioned having kids, you got to be present for your kids. So if you go to work, you get injured, you can't be present for your children. So ultimately the health and the nutrition and my big thing is that it extends past the 40-hour work week job. It extends past your 20 to 30-year career.
Yes.
It's a lifetime 24/7 thing. And some people don't really realize that until
Mhm.
the problem shows up and they're presented with that issue and it affects them a lot more than they imagined it would.
Mhm. Earlier, we were talking about how important it is to recognize our limitations. And I thought that was just brilliant that you mentioned that. So, did you want to share anything on that?
Knowing your limitations. So for me, I went to patrol being a 5'3", 150-pound female, full knowing well that it was going to be a challenge if I had to pick a fight with a 6 foot something, 250, 300-pound guy. And let's be real, most of the men you deal with on the street are probably about that. They're about 6 foot, 200 pounds. I mean, that's pretty average size for most men, I feel like you deal with on the street, maybe even some women. Shoot, I've had juveniles that were bigger than me. Um, so making sure you know your limitations when you get on scene with that person, knowing your ability to fight if you need to fight, and really just thinking to yourself, am I ready for this? Am I prepared for this? And one of the ways that you can tackle that, kind of like what we said before, is making sure that it's in your head when you're training. Of hey, I'm gonna go do a couple 100-yard sprints today because this could be something that comes up at work, and I'm gonna make sure that I can do a 100-yard sprint and I don't know, do 10 push-ups, 20 burpees, and get up and do another 100-yard sprint, and make sure that you're still able to talk on the radio, or you're still able to communicate with somebody, or if you have to draw your gun and shoot, you have to be able to keep those fine motor skills that they always tell us that goes out the window in high stress situations because you get into the fight or flight mode. So keeping those things in mind while you're working out, while you're training, is going to help you prepare best for those scenarios.
One thing that I found extremely helpful for me, I got a much better workout, and I think it absolutely helped me on the streets. Is while I was in my indoor cycling or outdoor cycling on the street, or the run clubs, the run teams that I was on, or just my regular workouts, in my mind, I was having foot chases. In my mind, I was bailing out at the end of a car chase. In my mind, I was going over a fence. In my mind, I was in a very small little room fighting with somebody. And in my mind, what am I doing? And I did it while I was physically training. I mean, I had thousands and thousands of incidents while I was working out, right? While I had maybe a couple hundred over my career on the streets. So I had the reality of it. I knew what it felt like, and I knew how to take that reality on the streets and in my mind. And I know, and so I used to teach defensive driving also. And one of the things you do in defensive driving is you always look ahead of you when you try to make a plan of what would happen, what if, what if, what if. And I know as a prior gymnast, and now you were a much better gymnast than I was, but I know that once you do the move, you can feel the move. Like right now, you can probably feel a move, right? Anytime you see a bar, you want to swing on it, a narrow thing, you want to flip over it, an open space, you want to run and do some moves on it, right? I wanted my brain to do the same thing. And I always correlated high heart rate, lots of adrenaline with surviving, with saving somebody else's life. You know, what would I do? What am I capable of doing? When would I give up? Well, never, right? So I pushed myself so that I knew that. I knew that I could keep going on that. And that was very helpful for me. And again, I got some really good workouts because of that. But I mean, it did correlate. You have to have, and so the elephant in the room, we might have some viewers that haven't been in a foot chase, foot pursuit, haven't been in a fight. Hopefully they are able to utilize their de-escalation skills, which you and I have talked about extensively, how important it is to be able to de-escalate a situation. But let's say that you've done everything you can possibly do and you still are not able to take control of the situation and it goes physical. Do everything you can beforehand to train your mind on that. Everything you can to train your mind on that. You and I have talked extensively about that, and we'll probably do additional videos on that also. So like you were saying, know your limitations, train for your limitations. Always try to out-train your limitations.
Yep. Yep. And this is more a little bit down a rabbit hole, but if you have a device that records your heart rate while you work out, use it.
Do it. Absolutely.
Because then that tells you what the red line is for you, which red line meaning you can't push any further. That's your absolute limit. So if you know your red line's at 210 beats per minute and you can train at 190 to 200 beats per minute, you're doing really well to be able to extend your cardio and to be able to keep your heart rate up, but know that you can still keep going.
One of the other things we talked about that I thought was very interesting is you listed, you know, what you felt, you know, how tall you were, what your weight was. You're probably 100 times stronger than any other woman your size. I mean, you really are. You have a lifetime of being physically fit, a lifetime of using your body, of knowing how your body is moving, being aware of your body and all of that. So that gives you a huge, huge benefit. Yet you will still try to de-escalate a situation. You will still recognize, you know, it's not like the movies. It's not like TV, you know, it's real life. Some of the things that I found out that I was very, very good at doing. So I'm 5'5". When I was on the streets, I was around 120, up to about 127 pounds. With all my gear on, you know, add another 20 some pounds or whatever. And I learned that no matter how hard I hold somebody down, if they're bigger than me, they can get up off the ground with me holding them down. There's a couple moves that we used to do that are no longer acceptable in police work, so we can't use those anymore. But I really had to learn what my limitations were. At that same time, I learned what I could do and what I could do very well. And what I was really, really good at doing is controlling somebody's feet or controlling one arm, one hand. Get that handcuff on one hand and you have them. You can get them down on the ground and pull them and yank them back as hard as you want to. Very helpful until cover gets there. If it's a dog pile, we're getting them into custody, you know, I can get in there and get the handcuffs on. I'm small enough to move around the backseat of a car when you have a difficult prisoner and get them controlled in a vehicle. And those are pluses. Those are pluses. So I recommend that every woman recognize what their limitations are, like you said, work past those limitations. Don't just accept them, work past them and find out what you're good at and put that to use. Find out what you're good at and put that to use. Don't be that person who stands around and thinks you can't do anything. Now, don't get in the way, but don't be the option that just stands there and didn't help. Get in there and help, but know what you can do. Know what you can do. And one thing that we also talked about and kind of laughed about is that, you know, you're very young in the early years of your career. I'm considerably older and I'm outside of the career, but we both have a very, very, very strong desire to survive, our office, our coworkers safe, our community safe, and we're tasked with the responsibility of keeping our suspect or arrestee safe also. So we do have to know physically what we are able to do and what we can do.
Yeah. I agree. I like the thing. I mean, we say know your limitations, but know your strengths. I like that. I like pointing that out. Um, because it's like one of those things, you get into a fight with somebody, or you got two people trying to cuff somebody, and you might get in there and do what you can. But for me, I mean, you see some bigger guys coming up that can do more work. I mean, maybe step back and let them finish the fight. But that comes with knowing your strengths and knowing your weaknesses, and reading the situation, and trying to figure out what works best and when, and how to get that desired outcome of getting the person into custody, but trying to do it with minimal injury to everybody that's
To
involved.
everybody. It goes back to what we talked about in our last video of being part of a team,
Mm-hmm.
teamwork, and knowing how you fit into the team. So I know that one thing that's very important to both of us is we want our women to thrive. And we were talking about, we've mentioned mindset over and over and over again. So I have just a couple of questions for our women to think about. And that is, how do you want to show up? How do you want to be seen? What do you, if somebody's describing you as an officer, what do you want the words to be? So if you can identify how you want to be, how you want to show up, what can you do to ensure that outcome? What can you do? What actions, what activities can you do? What training can you do? Since we're talking about being physically fit and holding your own on the streets and looking like that, Monica just told you some stuff that you can do. I gave you some questions you can ask, and Monica gave you some actions that you can actually do. All of this goes into giving you the correct mindset, the correct mindset. There was one other question that I wanted to ask. It was absolutely brilliant, and it's gone. It's gone. So I'll probably post it in the questions, or unless you remember it, I'll use it in a future video, but it's gone.
Yeah, so to tie that back in, I mean, we started talking about stereotypes, right? And women being able to show up and be effective on the job. So if you do the work, you answer the questions that Kimberly puts out on what type of officer you want to be, who you want to show up as, you start there, you figure out a plan, you do the work with the nutrition, fitness, and mindset, and making sure that everything aligns there. The day that you get called to do the crappy freaking call that's hands-on, dirty, you get rolled up in the mud, foot pursuit, whatever you name it, you show up and you go to work and you get it done. What does that, how does that affect that stereotype about women not being able to handle themselves, right? It's kind of a punch in the
Absolutely.
gut to those people that are like, well, women shouldn't be cops. Well,
Absolutely.
buddy, I just did the work. I trained a little bit
Yeah.
harder, and I just showed up and I just handled it. So I think I proved myself today. So maybe I didn't change your opinion, but I know for myself that I can handle this and that I could.
Yes. And what a great example you are to other women. What a great example you are to other women. And, and then there are the men, there are the individuals. I'm not even going to say men, there are the individuals
That's right.
going to change their mind ever, ever. So, what we want to do is we want to go there, we want to do our best, we want to go home safe. When we're asking ourselves what went wrong, we don't want it to be because we were not prepared for it. Remember, we're controlling the controllables. Always control the controllables. Use your de-escalation skills. And when you have no other options, be able to do what you need to do. Do what you need to do. Absolutely. And be able to explain it later. Be able to explain later what happened and why you did it. And that just, we were talking about rabbit holes. This might be a little bitty one. But if you know your limitations and you are put in a situation where you have to escalate something, you don't want to have escalated it because you're just not in shape. You want to be as in the best shape that you can. And when you are being questioned by the media, by the courts, by the public, whatever, they're like, that girl had it going on. She could handle herself, and she still had to escalate. Not like, well, look at her. I mean, she's 30 pounds overweight. Her uniform doesn't fit. She couldn't get out of the car without huffing and puffing. We hear her breathing on her camera. Of course she had to escalate. Had she been in shape, she wouldn't have had to escalate. That is important in today's times. That is
Very,
very important in today's times.
very.
Um, Both of us really hope that you got something out of this. We put a lot of time into preparing this, talking about it. Hopefully you notice that we come from different ages, different places in our careers and stuff. And we're actually going to have a future video about that, about how to bridge that, how we can benefit, how we can bring the value of a more experienced individual who's been there, done that, in a very non-judgmental way, ego out of the way, with the younger generation who just wants to thrive and wants to continue carrying that torch. Because as hard as it is to imagine, these youngins, when they're 20 and 30 years old, there's going to be a day when they're in their 50s heading towards 60, and there's going to be that other young officer who's 20 or 30 years old. And we want to continue that very successful path in law enforcement. We want to be setting up our sisters for success, our daughters for success, and just successful, long, successful careers. Who, when a woman talks about their career, they can smile like I do. And when I have a conversation with a young woman like Monica, I just, in my heart, like, oh, I hope you love it like I did. I hope you love it like I did. And I hope you know that you matter and that we're able to give you those tools. So, anything else you want to add, Monica, before we turn this off?
I think we hit it. I think we knocked it out of the park. I feel pretty good about it. But as always, if you need anything from me, you can find me at 50 Fierce and Fit. I just branched out to TikTok. But the best way to reach me is to join my Facebook group, 50 Fierce and Fit group. And then you can obviously direct message me. I also just posted a link if you want to schedule a discovery call with me where we can chat, figure out if you're a good fit for a program and figure out how to get you some help to reach your goals, whether that's one-on-one coaching or just I can shoot you whatever generic information you're looking for at the time. Whatever's going to help you, I'm here for. So reach out to me, book a call, or just shoot me a message, say hello. If you want to chat, if you want to vent, whatever you need, I'm here for you.
And again, I am Kimberly Stratman. I'm To The Point Coach. I have a Facebook page called Bold and Brave Women. I have a YouTube channel that we share our videos on. It's currently, you can sometimes find it on To The Point Coach. We're working on getting that changed. I will help you with anything at all I can possibly help you with. I'm a life coach for high-performing women, and I also help first responders retire with a successful, healthy, hopefully long life after they leave cop world. And I would love to help you with anything at all. Comments on these videos are always helpful. Like it, subscribe, please. And we would like to know what you need from us. We're here for you. We're willing to put the time and the effort in to help you help yourself.
I think that sums it up.
Okay, thanks a lot. Bye, y'all.
See ya.